Hello, this is Pick, and welcome to my developer commentary of my modpack Integration by Parts DX presented by Feed the Beast. I'm going to get right into the gameplay and talk about the developer side of things over clips of downtime. This episode will cover the first chapter in the quest book. It took about 4.5 hours to record the gameplay, so that is a gauge of how long things should take if you know what you're doing. This is my first time editing a video, so it will have some rough edges to it, but I hope overall it gets the feel of a dev playthrough across. Now, to get started with the gameplay, I looked around at my initial spawn and noticed some nice ash hills behind me. A quick bit of vanilla progression later, and looking at the other nearby biomes, I see that this is an excellent spawn for getting started in this mod pack. Lots of wood, mountains, and water. Each of these things will help progression more than most biomes, but none are flat out necessary to get started. To give a brief look at the quest book, first, there are some early tasks that can be claimed for free rewards, but those aren't too important at the moment. So our first goal is the Petal Apothecary. Of course, you can claim these now if you want, but I claim quest rewards at my own pace. So, what should you expect in this mod pack and playthrough? Well, for starters, this is an expert mod pack, but not as grindy as you might be used to, especially compared to the previous expert packs Feed the Beast has released. I tried to prioritize fun as much as possible, and while that can never be one size fits all, I made the pack I would want to play and made use of as many mod features as I could. Also, do note, while this is very close to it, this is not the finalized release version, and tiny tweaks will happen along the way. I will note anything important as it comes up. As for playthrough specific things, like any mod pack with options, I will not be using absolutely all of them, but I will try to showcase some of the most unique features. I just cleared out some space to get things started and made a platform to work off of. I detest lawn bases, but for now I will keep myself out in the open. I'll fix it later. There are plenty of lovely structures that have been pre-made for you to use as a base if you so wish, but I won't be using them, as I can just make something new instead. The option is there if you want it though. There are currently 10 to choose from, and I think I did a pretty good job in building all of them. I then went to the mountains to see what easy resources were available, particularly coal and Inferium, as well as mystical flowers. Mystical flowers are an ingredient to the Petal Apothecary. I suppose since this seed is particularly useful, if you want it, here it is on screen now. I saw some yaks, which drop yak hair, which can be made into brown wool for a bed. Do be careful though, they are similar to zombie pigmen, in that they become aggressive as a group if you attack one. I got out fine, but you never know if one gets too many hits in, right? I figured I would need some bones, so I made a quick area to cook the meat I obtained from the yaks, and prepared to fight a couple of skeletons. You don't need too many bones, but at least a few will be very helpful to get you started. Why make armor when you can just not die? This mindset won't come back to bite me later. I blocked in to keep the mobs out while I worked, as I have everything I need to make the Petal Apothecary, except for enough stone, which I can just get underneath my feet. Now, let's get crafting. As you can tell, this is the default recipe, as not everything ever needs to be difficult or different. I also made some bowls to fill it with. Since I didn't have a bucket yet, I filled the bowl with water instead. This can be done by throwing a bowl into water. Do note that you cannot dump this water anywhere but the Petal Apothecary. With the apothecary in hand, the pure daisy is next. However, for that, we need white flowers. I made some floral fertilizer using Inferium and petals. There are also better recipes if you have better materials available, but this will do for now. And with a sufficient number of white petals and a seed of any type, the pure daisy can be crafted. As per usual, placing logs around the pure daisy will convert them into living wood, as for stone with living rock. Now for the other components: a generating flower, mana spreader, mana pool, and wand of the forest. None of this is bad at all to make. A neat trick to remember is that you can place petals on the ground and grow them with bone meal to get tall flowers, which are helpful when gathering petal colors you already have. In addition, you do not need shears to harvest tall flowers, as I backported the functionality from future versions using Cube.js. Really quick, I made a ladder to get from the bottom of the hill to the top easier. If you didn't know, you can hold right click with Quark's ladders to have them auto place until you either run out of ladders or it hits a block. I trust that you know how to use basic JEI functions, so with every item we need crafted already, it's time to set it up. As long as you point the mana spreader at the mana pool and place the Endo Flame second, the flowers will automatically link to the spreader. To generate mana using endo flames, I used some coal blocks. Coal blocks last a long time, so they're good at being low maintenance. As you can see, we're making mana, which is a good checkpoint for this stage. Using a vein mining shovel obtained from a quest reward, collecting clay is very easy. Or at least it would be, if I had remembered to empty my inventory beforehand. I decided to make a diving board really quick, since the water below will break my fall. Since I live so close to both a river and an ocean, I stopped by to pick up some resources, particularly fish and kelp. These are 2 of the 3 ingredients to make the main source of food I will be using for this stage of the game. Kelp is rather easy to harvest. The last ingredient is rice, which I obtained seeds for by breaking tall grass. While that grows, mining helps pass the time while also making progress. Remember that handy trick with ladders. I also found some iron part of the way down, which is what I came here for in the first place. To process that iron, a furnace won't work, so I threw it in the mana pool first. The iron dust can then be smelted into ingots. By breaking coal into fuel units, furnaces can be used with less waste. Here's a teaser of what I'll make with this iron in just a short while, but for now it's time to smelt. You might be wondering what I'm cooking, and I'm in fact cooking bricks. These are for the new charcoal pit structure. 20 bricks in hand, 9 logs, a dirt block, and a flint and steel. Placing them in the configuration you see here is the required structure to form the pseudo multi-block. Logs in the center, bricks surrounding. After that's done, light the dirt on fire and be patient. With more of the iron from mining, I decided to make a lumber axe first. This will make acquisition of wood much quicker. However, by submitting it to the quest book, I can have it enchanted. This works similar to Tree Capitator from the days of old, where it took a little while to chop a tree down, but it all comes down at once. It's particularly suited for larger trees, especially ones with errant branch logs that you would have to pillar up to otherwise to get. While the charcoal pit does its thing, I might as well use the time to mine for diamonds, so that's what I did. Or at least I started to. I need more metals anyway, so I picked up what I could find first. I found a corundum cave, which is pretty neat. Corundum is pretty bad after all, but unfortunately I got 2 useless colors. Thankfully I can just craft the right ones later. With the charcoal pit finished, I can mine up the ash and charcoal that it produced. 4 charcoal per log instead of 1, with some ash as a byproduct. I then get to making it larger, which adds 2 minutes to the time it will take, but processes 16 extra logs, so it's worth doing. After smelting some osmium down, I made an osmium paxel. This thing is crazy, very worthwhile. It does 14 damage per hit, which is so insane that I nerfed it immediately after this play session. But the real purpose was just to have a good well-rounded mining implement. Combine pickaxe, axe, and shovel, and it's ready. The rice is finally grown, the first one anyway. More seeds will make it easier to get more, and I harvested the rest of the crops while I was there. Remember those fancy prefabs I mentioned? Here are a few of them. You have several options out of the gate right after you get iron. I took the time to make a very basic batch automated mana setup with a hopper and an open crate. It's worth noting that I messed up by placing the pressure plate next to the mana spreader. This gets fixed later. The general idea of this system is that the charcoal turns off the open crate so that no more than 2 charcoal come out at a time. Again, it's broken, so I'll fix it later. I also made a few more endo flames to make production noticeably faster. Some smoke-dried kelp and inventory management later, and I finally made a real food, sushi. Sushi handles 3 food groups and takes no fancy cooking setups, so it's suitable early on. Also, I ate some raw and cooked fish of both types just to have some more types of food eaten. You like watching mining? No? Well, I obviously cut most of it out. By the version you're playing, you likely have vanilla-style hammers now, but I had no such luck, since a fellow dev asked for the mod to be ported to this version just for me. It's not that big of a deal, I don't hate mining with a passion, and there'll be ways of doing it better soon anyway. Now that that's done, time to get some quests out of the way. Bricks are easy enough, as I already made some. Here's a preview of some of the stuff to make for the smeltery. To get started on mixed brick, bog earth must be made from fresh water, sand, and dirt. I made some extra pure daisies to speed up crafting, and then placed the bog earth next to them. It will slowly convert into peat bog. Remember when I said I messed up the automatic mana setup? I fixed it now by moving the pressure plate back a block. Not too difficult, and then I just had to adjust the redstone. Now it's time to head to the nether. I used the classic bucket trick to not waste diamonds on a pickaxe. Don't worry, you still need the diamonds later, so mining them wasn't a waste of time. A soul sand valley, an excellent starting biome, bone blocks for bone meal, rates for soul beads, and still providing nearby netherrack, which we need for nether bricks. And of course, who could forget seared bricks, the default smeltery component. This quest provides 2 Prudentium furnaces as a reward, which will help future smelting greatly. I can use that now to finish smelting seared bricks. It also uses fuel more efficiently, but I don't get too concerned with ratios as long as I smelt at least 10 items for fuel. With all of its components crafted, the smeltery is complete. Much easier for processing ores than the mana pool was, though it is a little restricted as to what alloys you can create. A lava trip and more seared bricks later, and it's time to look at the next goal, modularium. More gold is needed to produce it though, or alternatively silver for less product. The nether should have a good amount of starting gold though, so I head there first. Remember when I said I wasn't wearing armor earlier? Yeah, that bit me, huh? Gold in tow, ingots crafted, and then modularium. A good step forward into the multi-block machines of this mod pack, and plenty more with the quest reward. The machine controller isn't difficult to make at this point either. Just a diamond, some modularium, and redstone like so. This one also has a quest reward to give you more of them. To craft machine components, the stone cutter is able to turn the generic crafted controller into any of the multi-block's respective ones. This is the case for all ports as well. By submitting the controller for the bedrock miner, a capsule for the structure is provided. Note that it needs to be placed at bedrock and have mana to work. I also planted some flax. While flax is in fact string, the real benefit is the seeds. More on that another time. After going to bedrock level and clearing some space, I placed the multi-block down with the capsule. Next to it, a small mana producer. In earlier versions, you needed to make all the blocks for this, but since you are going to make another multi-block right after, it felt better to only require the controller for this one. Now that it has some mana, it can start producing bedrock crystals. This was a nice multi-block to start with, but they'll get more complex later. And as you see, the machine is operational and it made the intended product. I needed more of everything, gold in particular, so this trip should handle everything for the Duskstone mixer. Get a little more than you need though, as it will come in handy. And of course, it all goes into the smeltery. Be careful not to make rose gold from gold and copper. At least there's no Ang melon in this mod pack. If you were around in the 1.6 or 1.7 days, you would know the pain that was making Ang melon by accident from all of your gold. Really quick, I wanted to upgrade a fresh Paxel, so I made an anvil and claimed some enchanted book quest rewards and applied them to a new one I just made. This should last a while. I'm going to avoid tinkers for the most part. I would much rather use traditional tools, just being bored of tinkers really. I got lucky and found a zombie spawner. It had some pretty good loot in it too, such as a backpack and a capsule containing ores. Making some clear glass and smelting down the gold I mined, I made the first component of the Duskstone mixer, 3 molten gold casings. The glass had to be casted first, then the gold melted inside of it. It takes 6 ingots for 1 casing for a total of 18 ingots. After this machine becomes obsolete, the casings can be melted back down into gold. Every little bit for progression, right? Note that every part must be submitted individually. If you ever want to make more of these multi-blocks beyond the first one, check the capsule chapter, there are blueprints. Crafting isn't all that interesting, so I'll skip to when it's done. Or I would if I didn't grab some snow to make the packed ice. The mana infusion recipe has been altered to not need the alchemy catalyst, so this is why the snow in the mountain biome is helpful. And there's the last component done. That wasn't so bad. Now to just place it down. I pre-cleared some space for it, as I already know how big it is. I feel some nostalgia for the Duskstone mixer, as it was the first multi-block I ever made on the 1.12 version for this mod pack. I started pack development way back in 1.10, where a colleague was working on an expert pack and had me and a fellow dev help. We ended up taking the project over, and eventually I was working on it alone. But I didn't get down because of it, I kept going, even if it took 3 years. Then, one day, after release, a server wanted to run the original integration by parts, and if I hadn't poked fun at myself for voting for the mod pack, I wouldn't have met the right people to be where I'm standing right now today. This pack would never have gotten to where it is now if it weren't for the help I received with Feed the Beast, who I could not be more grateful for. As for the person who wanted to remake my mod pack on a later version as well, without whom I wouldn't have made this remaster. To you following aspiring pack developers out there, don't give up. Figure out how to make your dream a reality. You can get there. It's not as hard as it looks. By the way, this ore in the chest here, whose is it? It says it's uranium, but I don't know who you is. Now to smelt down some obsidian and gold. I'll also be making a tank for mechanism for easy transport. Did you know you could do this? It's quite convenient, especially when you have to move small amounts of fluid like this that don't fit in a bucket. Some steered faucets and channels will finish this setup. It's quite easy to do, and while you don't need to match fluids to their ports, it feels better to do so, like this. Same process for the obsidian, and with the mana going into the machine and both fluids in their ports, we can check the output port to get some Duskstone ingots. Then throw those into the mana pool, and finally the first chapter is complete. Success! I thank you for watching and hope you enjoyed the mod pack. Hopefully I can keep making these developer commentaries. It only took a few days to make this one. There is of course plenty more to do in this mod pack. Looking at the overview, the path splits here. I won't make all the episodes this clean cut as there's mixed progression, but I'll do my best. I'm overjoyed to reach the fruit-bearing stage of this project, and I'm grateful for everyone that has helped me get to this point. As you can see, I didn't do absolutely everything in this episode, but that's fine as there's more to do later. You can see a sneak peek of some of the other features. This might be the last hurrah for 1.16, who knows, right? Hard to say. I await your feedback, as that's the most important thing to me. Even release doesn't mean the end of the development cycle, as anyone with dev experience would know well. So, this was Pick. I hope you had a good time, and I hope to see you again another time. Thank you.